Hey everyone, this is V coming at you from 9B Gardens in so-called Houston, Texas, Garankawa territory. This is from a panel of three badass women talking about the anti-authoritarian mutual aid work they do at the border from the Indigenous Anarchist Conference last year in so-called Flagstaff, Arizona, Kinlani territory. To hear more, go to bellyofthebeastmedia.org.
I just want to be super transparent. On my mom's side, I'm Guatemalan. I'm the first on my mom's side to recognize that we have indigenous lineage. On my dad's side, I'm Ashkenazi Jewish. So I just wanted to be super transparent about my identity and who I am as someone who's providing services to asylum seekers in Tijuana. So when I went down, I I volunteered through a legal organization providing services to asylum seekers in Tijuana, and I was requested to support unaccompanied migrant youth staying at a shelter that I have no problem putting on blast. It's called IMCA, the YMCA for Migrant Youth in Tijuana, and I came to learn about the abusive leadership of Casa IMCA in Tijuana. And so something I really want to emphasize, especially when we move forward into the conversation about strategy, in Mexico, it is criminalized to support unaccompanied migrant youth. It is criminalized to transport them. It is criminalized to house them. And this favors the organized crime, the networks of organized crime from all the way from Central America into Mexico through the detention system because the the system of concentration camps is human trafficking, and so our asylum seeking relatives are literally going from like the threat of trafficking by drug cartels through the threat of trafficking by the U.S. government. And meanwhile, any folks who are operating outside of the state to provide services for folks are criminalized and could be charged with smuggling. So there was a lot of challenges I faced in trying to ensure that uh, like the most vulnerable youth were receiving the services that they needed. There are no youth shelters in Tijuana for queer youth, and they're not safe to stay at the shelters for youth that exist because a lot of youth that I met, like yeah, they grew up in an environment where there are pandillas, where there are drug cartels, and many of them had previously worked for cartels. Like they're super young and like many are coerced, and so I found myself I found myself in some really challenging situations because there was many situations when I was having to mediate between white lawyers who were profiling Central American asylum-seeking youth as gang affiliated, and I started to notice in this shelter that I was particularly providing services at that there was some really like eerie behavior with the shelter manager, and he was stockpiled. So a lot of people were sending donations to this shelter, and they were being stockpiled in the warehouse. And there was all of these youth that were like, "These donations are for us. Why aren't they being distributed to us? Why are we only like having like one change of clothes? Why do we have to beg for like to receive the donations that are being sent to us?" The shelter manager was denying them medical attention, and I really so sometimes like we're asking ourselves what indigenous anarchy means. Like for me, like I honestly have like played diplomacy as a strategic tactic in order to provide services to Central American mixed Afro-Indigenous youth that do not have access to culturally competent service providers. I don't have any degree. I'm not like I don't have a degree in social work, but I have my values, and so I was I was doing some things to like be like, okay, you all are super problematic white lawyers. You all are getting money for providing services to people from around the world, and you all are gonna write the narrative over how you were saviors, and like instead of just overthrowing the system, you're out here like on your disaster like zoo tourism. It was really messed up. It was really challenging to be there as a Central American um, femme, like providing services, but I was still just like trying to, do what I could to get the services to folks. At the end of the day, this like abusive shelter manager kicked out some youth from the shelter and planted evidence to justify why he kicked out the youth. And I found myself in this situation where I was placed in a tough situation where I had to transport and house unaccompanied migrant youth under the age of 18 in Tijuana multiple times, and it was the most stressful thing ever. And I remember people working at this legal nonprofit in Tijuana telling me, people who were super supposedly down with me, but when it came down to finding shelter for these youth, they were like, "You're on your own with this one." And so, like, no questions asked. Like, there was a network of autonomous efforts. What was really cool about this like network of folks organizing under the umbrella of Caravan Support Network was that folks were organizing cultural events from New York to LA to the Bay. People were organizing shows, concerts, and sending the money to like this particular fund. Some comrade that we have that lives in the South was like helping distribute the money. We were able to house people that were under imminent threat in Tijuana, that these lawyers, like literally straight up, just because I'm volunteering at this place, like the shit I saw, and then I was just like, we have to do something about it. There was folks that would come in and be like, there's people trying to kill me outside. Like, I can't go back to Benito Juarez. Like, there's drug cartels that have identified me. The exodus was infiltrated by people in cartels. Also, like, a huge question I have for us is, how do we approach relatives who have become implicated in cartel violence? That's not something that we were born, like, that's not something that's like innate, right? That's something that we're socialized into. Not we, but like folks that we share history, we share experiences with. So something I'm curious about is like, so sorry, I'm getting all jumbled. It's all of the experiences there, but yeah, so there was Central American folks who had infiltrated the exodus and that were working for cartels and probably narco governments, identifying people who were activists in their countries of origins. I'm getting a call from right now, so I'm going to take this call, pass the mic, and we can talk later.
I just want to speak a little bit more really quickly to the trauma that I don't think is spoken to enough, or the burnout that we don't have the privilege to really process or experience as people like dealing with very extremely traumatic situations, and then on top of it experiencing this level of being ostracized within our own communities, and this work that is so like personal and like deep to us, and why it's important to take power away from these organizations, these churches, these nonprofits who are trying to, they're really just contributing to further erasure and violence in these communities. And so for folks, this whole panel is supposed to be structured around ways to plug in, ways that you can support border work. And there's really just so many different things that you can do, organizing actions in your own communities, finding your local detention centers and organizing actions there. If you have the capacity and ability to, it's like really crucial that folks really like go to these places that are in complete crisis. In Tijuana and Juarez, for example, like we just have really run out of complete total capacity, even within the means of trying to like, operate under diversity of tactics and work with people who like we don't necessarily agree with, but then end up co-opting our movements and our work. And if you can, go to the border. I don't know if anybody, I think the Awesome Nation folks are going to be speaking a little bit too to what's happening there, but there's these indigenous nations being affected by the border wall as well, and like the time for resistance, the time for fighting back, the time for action is now. And I just want to like really lift up all these incredible warriors. Just like, I don't know, like I haven't even began to process, my own like trauma within, structural violence and white supremacist violence, and even just like subtle white supremacy in our own communities, and being gaslit within our own communities, and having my voice silenced by people who come into my community and try to tell me how I should feel about violence happening and being inflicted on our people. And I was told that direct action is going to be in very bad taste following the mass shooting by a bunch of people who are not from El Paso, have no connection to El Paso, don't know the mourning, the loss, like the pain, the agony that this community is truly facing, who's never experienced anything, you know, on this level before, and learn how to come correct in these communities when you show up, and learn what it means to come correct as a relative, and show up in like real and tangible ways and elevate, these voices. And if you're looking for ways to plug in, come talk to one of us. There's definitely a million different things for you to do, different ways to support. We always need more donations. I know that folks in TJ do. We're going to be actively working a lot more in Juarez, Mexico, so folks with border crossing privilege have the ability to go out. There's a lot of albergues being opened up in Juarez. There's 5 new squats that opened up this last week, started by Cuban asylees who are, organizing autonomously in Mexico against the government, who has refused to give them any resources or assistance. And we plan to be very proactive in supporting them and organizing our own new autonomous space. Is there anything else?
Is it okay if someone greets folks from inside?
Okay. Ahorita, mira, te voy a introducir y luego voy a poner el teléfono al micrófono. Dame un segundo. So everyone, this is who's at Wingfield Detention Center in Louisiana. ¿Puedes hablar?
Hola, mucho gusto. Soy mi nombre de varón es y cómo están amigues, porque la verdad que ustedes todos somos amigues. Estoy muy bien, gracias.
Okay, voy a traducir por ti. Saying hi, my name is. My male assigned name is. I'm doing well, thank you. ¿Hay algo que le quieres de allá o alguna esperanza que tienes de allá?
Que la fuerza nos ayuda mucho y la paciencia para lograr nuestras metas.
Saying that strength and patience helps a lot in achieving one's goals. Y pues is there anything that folks in here want to say to?
Stay strong. We got you. We love you. No estás sola.
Gente está diciendo no estás sola, que mantengas tu fuerza, que te queremos. Algo más? Anything else that folks want to say to?
Fuck us!
Fuck Trump!
Chinga la migra!
Chinga la migra!
Mucha gente.
Thank you.
Algo más?
Muchas
Anything?
gracias.
Okay.
Muchas gracias por su carisma y gracias por estar apoyando esta causa también.
Thank you so much for your charisma and for supporting the cause. Perfecto. Si hay algo más o si no quieres, pues se continúa la discusión y pues seguimos hablando.
Bueno, no sé, ¿quieres que cuente algo acerca de mí? Tú dime.
Como tú quieras. Si tú quieres compartir de ti, aquí está todo un cuarto de gente.
Bueno, les voy a comentar un poco de mi historia porque estoy aquí.
I'm going to share a little bit of her story on why she's in the detention center, what brought her there. Sale.
Bueno, yo estoy aquí por 2 razones. Estoy aquí porque he sido discriminada desde pequeña edad hasta la actualidad en mi país y aún aquí en Estados Unidos por parte de personas que son homofóbicas, personas que no racistas también, porque también he pasado circunstancias de racismo.
Okay, dame un segundo para que traduzca. I'm going to say I'm here for 2 reasons. I've been discriminated against since I was a young child until this present moment. I've been discriminated in my home country and in the United States for homophobia, transphobia, and also racism. Okay. Puedes.
Y la siguiente es
No, está bien, está bien.
ok, continúo.
Sí.
Ok, la siguiente es por mi ideología política.
The second reason is for my political ideology.
Lo que mi movimiento en Honduras quiere es la liberación de la privatización de las empresas de energía eléctrica, agua, telefonía, y que tengamos un salario bueno, pero lo que pasa es que la clase pudiente de mi país está en contra de nosotros.
So what we're struggling for in my country of origin in Honduras is against privatization of water, electricity, what am I missing? Electricity, water, telephone, thank you. And that those that are in power, the bourgeoisie, are against us. And we're working for a better salary too. Okay.
Okay, continúo.
Sí, como tú quieras.
Ok, también el movimiento apoya a las personas de la comunidad LGBT y nos han prometido que nos van a dar más prioridad como personas porque somos muy vulnerables ante la sociedad, entonces vamos a tener un lugar en la sociedad, en nuestro país, porque nuestro país es un país extremadamente homofóbico.
So I just remembered something I forgot to translate is that the movement that it belongs to the Libre Party is also inclusive of LGBTQ rights because LGBTQ rights are not respected at all in Honduras. And so something that Jimena has been told is that that LGBTQ folks are gonna be given a higher priority in receiving protection because of the persecution they face in Honduras. Is there anything I missed in the translation? Okay. Puedes seguir si tú quieres.
Bueno, también en mi país fui víctima de violencia física y psicológica por medio de personas que odian a las personas de la comunidad LGBT. No sé por qué, porque no hacemos daño, no perjudicamos a nadie, solo queremos vivir nuestras vidas como humanos que somos.
So I've been targeted in my home country. I've been physically and psychologically assaulted for my LGBTQ identity. I don't understand why I've been targeted for my LGBTQ identity because we don't torment people, we don't harass people, we just want to live our lives in peace. Puedes seguir hablando si quieres.
Okay. También he visto el sufrimiento de varias amigas de la comunidad también porque también son víctimas de violencia a otras amigas también duele la palabra, pero las asesinan, golpean, las mutilan. O sea, pasan tantas cosas en mi país tan horribles que nuestra comunidad en Honduras está extremadamente en peligro.
Our community in Honduras, the LGBTQ community, is under extreme danger in Honduras. I've seen the suffering, the immense suffering of amigues, which is a gender-neutral term to say friends. I've seen extreme suffering. I've seen the assassination of friends, the mutilation of friends, disappearance of friends. So the situation for us is grave there. Si quieres,
Continúo.
sí, como quieras.
Okay. También he hablado con otras amigas de diferentes países de Centroamérica y también están pasando por una situación difícil, ya que en sus países también son víctimas de violencia y también son víctimas de
I've talked to other Central American friends who have also lived this immense suffering. Central America members of the LGBTQ community in Central America are targeted in high percentages for trafficking and for assassination. So it's a regional issue. Did I miss anything with the translations? But it's like it's extreme. There's extreme violence being waged on LGBTQ folks in Central America. Oh, and many of them are targets of trafficking. And it's unsupportable, insoportable, like it's not supportable. Like, and
Esta llamada será terminada en 2 minutos.
tenemos 2 minutos. ¿Cómo podemos apoyar a las personas que están en Winfield, Louisiana? Y pues sí, porque sabemos que estas llamadas son grabadas, like these calls are recorded, pero ¿cuál es una manera amigable que podemos apoyarlas allá adentro?
Sería por medio de enviando cartas con pensamientos acerca de ser fuerte, pensamientos agradables que siempre a toda persona nos agrada que nos llegue una carta y nos diga que seamos valientes, que continuemos, que esta lucha al final va a tener algo bueno.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Y las visitas, I'm going to translate this in a sec, we can all work together in the translations. Ahí las personas vienen a visitar.
Esta llamada será terminada en 1 minuto.
Ay.
Claro que ayudan, las visitas ayudan, claro que ayudan, porque así uno conoce nuevas personas y tiene con quién dialogar, quien lo escuche también.
Ok, muy bien.
Si quieres vuelvo a marcar.
Oh, ok, como quieran, se puede hacer eso. ¿Qué más? Ayuda si, como la gente aquí de afuera, ayudaría a juntar la evidencia que necesita la gente adentro.
Es correcto, también eso es una parte muy importante, porque hay personas que no tenemos las evidencias con nosotros y si hay personas afuera que nos pueden ayudar con esto sería de mucha utilidad, porque las evidencias hablan por nosotros.
Ok, perfecto. ¿Hay algo más que tú quisieras decir? Si tú quieres llamar de regreso, aquí estaremos para recibir la llamada, como tú quieras.
Ok, si quieres ahora mismo intento marcar otra vez.
Sale, como tú quieras, aquí te esperamos y te queremos mucho. Okay. The call ended. So something that Jimena was saying is that writing letters is really helpful in sending encouraging messages to like stay strong, to stay courageous, and to just like send letters that boost the morale. Also visits, in-person visits. And so this is what I was talking about like, you know, doing autonomous work, but also leveraging the resources that nonprofits have, even though many of them are like led by white individuals and they are for-profit, nonprofit organizations. Something that is helpful is using their resources to do some of the autonomous work. So Freedom for Immigrants has a national visitation program that I highly recommend. Like maybe you want to like organize like, you know, who you're in affinity with and do visitations to your closest detention center. And that's like a really great way to establish relations with people on the inside. And then you can coordinate support for people inside. It's also, and that's something you can do to like support people in gathering evidence. That's something that Jimena was saying is super helpful. Okay, yes. Seguimos como tú quieras. Hola.
Ok, sí, aquí estoy. ¿Continúo?
Sí, como quieras.
Ok, esa es una parte muy buena con lo de personas que quieran ayudar a las personas que estamos aquí adentro a adquirir nuestras pruebas, a hacer traducciones, porque hay bastantes personas aquí que no hablan ni entienden el inglés.
Gracias. So it's really helpful for people to come visit in person, to help with translations, to help with getting the documents together. And just to add on to that, it's there's a huge need for people to like do visits and then like get the information of their family members who live elsewhere and then reach out to their family members via WhatsApp and like help get the documents together and then translate them. And that takes like a whole community of mobilization to help them get those documents. Ok, perfecto. ¿Hay algo que quieres agregar? O
Les quiero agregar que muchas gracias por escucharme y por escuchar personas que venimos migrando a este país por mejorar nuestras vidas, así mejorarlas en la parte que ya no vamos a tener miedo de salir, de expresarnos como expresarnos libremente.
Thank you so much for listening to me and for listening to us and for supporting us, all of us who are seeking a better life, so that we don't have to live in fear, so that we can fully express ourselves. Y hay
Que no nos discriminen,
Ajá.
sentirnos seguros en un país donde no nos discriminen por nuestra raza, por nuestra ideología, por nuestra orientación sexual, o sea, sentirnos libres.
We just really want to be in a place, in a country where we don't have to face discrimination for who we are, for our biology, for our orientation, our sexual orientation. We want to live without fear.
Solo quiero agradecerles por todas las personas que estamos acá. Muchas gracias por lo que están haciendo.
I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone. I want to thank you on behalf of everyone who is inside the Winfield facility. Thank you so much. Is there anyone, do you all want to say something collectively? Tal vez el grupo quiere decir algo colectivamente para que pues se pueda alcanzar el mensaje allá con tus amigues. Is there a message that folks would like to share?
For the indigenous people here, we see you as relatives. For the indigenous people of the so-called United States, we see you as relatives here, and we send prayers to our mountains and to our rivers, and know that you are people of the corn, we are people of the corn, and we are connected. We will always be connected, and nothing they can do will ever stop that.
Help me out if I fuck this up. Como personas indígenas de aquí, de supuestamente los Estados Unidos, les reconocemos como familiares, como pertenecemos a una grande familia y rezamos a las montañas, a los cielos, reconocemos que nosotros y ustedes somos todos hijes, I don't know, gender neutral for children, anybody?
Niñes.
Gente de maíz, somos gente de maíz, todos somos gente de maíz y no nos van a poder parar.
And we love you.
Muchas gracias. Gracias por sus lindas palabras.
Y te queremos mucho.
Gracias, yo también. Y las voy a atesorar mucho en mi corazón y en mi vida diaria y las compartiré.
I'm going to treasure you all in my heart every day. I'm going to share your words. Jimena's court date is next week on the 26th. Any other messages? No.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Sí,
We're praying for it right now.
mucha gente te agradece mucho por tu testimonio y vamos a rezar por tu libertad.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I'm going to check in with you now.
So I think now we just want to open it up for a circle and go through the names of some of the folks that recently died in detention and talk about how we can build power moving forward together and build support.
Also, just inviting folks that have also been down there, throwing down to talk. I know some folks here were part of the occupation that I mentioned in Contra Viento y Marea. Just really want to hear back from folks.
So just really quickly, we're gonna read out loud the names of some of the kids who have recently died in detention. And one thing that we can say in Espanol is presente. So after I read the name, say presente, and that means present. They are here with us today. Wilmer José Ramírez. Presente. Juan de León Gutiérrez. Presente. Felipe Alonso Gómez. Presente. Jacqueline Cal Maquin. Presente. Darlene Cristóbal Córdoba Valle. Presente. Carlos Hernández Vázquez. Presente. I want to give a moment of silence to all the unknown folks who have either died in Border Patrol custody or on their migration routes through the desert and did not reach assistance, that the government is now trying to criminalize humanitarian aid in the deserts. So just quick moment of silence for all the unknown people. To all the victims of state-sanctioned violence and our relatives who are currently crossing in the desert, who have not made it and who are still trying to make it. Presente! Presente! Okay, cool. The next time is up.
This is V signing off and reminding everyone out there, don't hate the media, be the media. Peace.